Hey everybody, we have made it to our final first round playoff series preview. It is in the North Division. It is a massive Canadian rivalry. It is a playoff matchup we have not seen in decades. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Montreal Canadiens. This is going to be an awesome series between the top-seeded Maple Leafs and 4-seed Canadiens. These two teams, despite being massive rivals throughout their history and going all the way back to the original six, they have not played in the playoffs since 1979. And the only NHL player active in the league that was even alive when that series happened is Zdeno Chara of the Washington Capitals. And no other player playing in the league right now was even alive the last time that these two teams met in the postseason. So, obviously, Canadiens, Maple Leafs, a huge rivalry. This series is going to be absolutely massive in Canada. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and we cannot wait to see who comes out on top. So before we begin, I just ask you to please subscribe and hit that thumbs up. It helps the channel so much and is greatly appreciated. But let's get into it here. Taking a look at Toronto and Montreal, starting with the 1-seed Toronto Maple Leafs. They went 35, 14, and 7 on the year, 77 points, and won the North Division. They played very well against the Canadiens in the regular season this year, going 7-2-1 versus Montreal, winning 7 out of the 10 matchups. And really did a good job in the regular season series. We'll see if that carries over into the playoffs. Toronto, very high-scoring team. 6th best offensive team in the league, scoring 3.32 goals for per game. And obviously that is expected given the fact that they have Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Willie Nylander, and the firepower up front that they have offensively. You would expect the Toronto Maple Leafs to be one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and they were this year. Matthews obviously led the league in goals and had a tremendous season, and they've got a lot of scoring and offensive ability up there with the Maple Leafs. What you might be surprised about is how good that Toronto was defensively this year, giving up just 2.64 goals against per game. That was tied for 7th best in the NHL. So not only was Toronto a top 10 scoring team, they were a top 10 defensive team as well this year, and that is something new for the Maple Leafs. The questions about this team over the last 4 to 5 years have always revolved around their defense. Well, this year, they've done a very nice job of keeping the puck out of their net. However, special teams has not really been great for the Leafs this year. Just 20% on the power play, which is 16th best in the NHL. Very middle of the road on the power play here. And in particular, it really struggled down the stretch. It became more and more of a story and more of an issue down in the last, 4 to 6 weeks of the season, just how bad the power play was performing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that is something that there is definitely worth watching in the postseason. Is can the power play pick it up, or is that going to be a issue for the Leafs? Penalty kill, not great. 78.5% on the penalty kill, tied for 23rd in the NHL. They happen to be tied with the team that they are playing at 23rd in the NHL with a 78.5% on the PK. Special teams in general just haven't been great really for either of these teams. If you look at the numbers, not a strength of either of these teams. So that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Switching over now to the Montreal Canadiens. They went 24, 21, and 11 on the season, 59 points. Just enough to get in the playoffs and get in that 4th spot in the North. Now, they did struggle with the Leafs this year, going just 3-6-1 against Toronto. Obviously, regular season series certainly favors the Maple Leafs here, but regular season series doesn't necessarily equate to playoff success. Playoffs are a whole new animal and things can change. Now, Montreal was very middle of the road offensively and really at everything this year. Montreal was a very middle of the road team this year. They scored 2.82 goals for per game, which was 17th in the NHL. Obviously, significant offensive advantage here to the Leafs. Defensively, they gave up 2.95 goals against per game, which was 14th in the NHL, so very middle of the pack again. Defensively this year. And their special teams, very similar to Toronto, struggled this year, going just 19.2% on the power play, which was 17th in the league, one spot back of the Maple Leafs. And they are tied with the Maple Leafs on the penalty kill at 78.5%, which is 23rd in the league. So, obviously, statistically, the advantage is Toronto in every single category here, which isn't uncommon when you look at 1 versus 4 matchups, or a top seed versus a low seed. Generally, the top seed is clearly the better team and should have a majority of the advantages going into the playoffs. And we see that with offense, defense, pretty much everything here between the Leafs and the Habs. Now, playoff series aren't won on paper. Statistical advantages are only statistical advantages. They are not necessarily how things work out on the ice. And there are definite questions with the Toronto Maple Leafs, as there are major questions with the Montreal Canadiens, but this series is not over before it begins. There is a chance that Montreal could pull off the upset here. Now, a lot of things would have to go their way, but it's definitely not impossible. Toronto just has the mental block of the fact that they cannot get past the first round, at least up to this point. The Maple Leafs have not won a playoff series since 2004. I was 7 years old the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won a playoff series. So it's been a long, long time, and that is definitely going to be weighing on the Leafs here. And the fact that with this core group, they have never been able to get past the first round. Is this a year it finally happens? Absolutely could be. But that is going to have a mental effect on the Toronto Maple Leafs, knowing that the pressure is on them in this series. Everyone expects them to win this series. Everyone expects them to be able to make a deep playoff run this year. The pressure is on the Leafs. On the Montreal side, most people are saying that Montreal is the worst team to make the playoffs this year. And honestly, I kind of have to agree. I think it's between them and Nashville. But at least Nashville played pretty well at the end of the season and was really strong down the stretch. I do think that the Canadiens are the weakest team to make it into the postseason this year. They only had 24 wins this season. Didn't even get to 60 points. This for the for the Canadiens is just, everyone expects them to lose. Nobody's expecting anything from them. This is time to play spoiler if you're the Montreal Canadiens, and they were able to do it just last year. In the 2020 playoffs, they were the 12 seed going into the qualifying round against the 5 seed Pittsburgh Penguins, and they were able to pull off the upset. And obviously, a lot of things are going to have to go their way for it to happen, but it's not impossible. I have major questions about the goaltending of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jack Campbell, who's played down the stretch with Freddie Anderson injured, we haven't seen Jack Campbell really in the playoffs. So what is he going to look like in the postseason? How is he a postseason goaltender or not? Freddie Anderson, he's back from injury now. Is he what are we gonna see from him? Is he gonna start? Is Campbell gonna start? How short is the leash gonna be on whichever goaltender does start, and how quickly are the Leafs gonna be willing to just make that switch to the other guy if the first one doesn't play well? There's a lot of pressure on the goaltending with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Anderson has not had a good year this year. Campbell did have a good year, but he's never really played in the playoffs before. I have questions on the other side as far as goaltending goes. Carey Price missed the last month plus of the regular season with injury. Jake Allen has taken over. He's been good, not great, but he's been good enough to get them into the playoffs. Carey Price, is he going to be back for game 1? I know he's off of LTIR now, and they've sent him on a conditioning stint to go play a game in the AHL. Are they going to roll with Carey Price at the start of this series, coming back from injury? Is he going to be rusty? Or is he going to just be rested and able to steal this series? Because if the Montreal Canadiens are going to steal this series, they're going to need a goaltender that can steal the series. They're going to need great goaltending for that to happen. Are they going to get it? That remains to be seen. There's a lot of questions going into this series. Obviously, Toronto is the favorite. I think Toronto wins this series in 6 games. I do think that the Montreal Canadiens are good enough to put up a serious fight, though, and it's not impossible that they could steal this round 1 matchup. It's not impossible. I'm not expecting it to happen, but it could. Still, I'm taking the Leafs, though. I think they're flat out the better team. They have to go somewhere in the playoffs this year. I've been saying it over and over and over again here heading into this postseason. The Leafs have to do something in the postseason this year. They cannot keep losing early in the playoffs with this core group. They have got to make a run. This, I think, could be the year that they make a run. I think they win this series in 6 games, but it's going to be a good one. Huge rivalry matchup, a lot of fun to watch. Can't wait to see these two teams play, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon merchandise store, donation link, and channel memberships in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.